was honestly expecting that. I was not expecting this. I was expecting them to come up with some other system or something, but not proper cancellation. So I was definitely in a huge shock. Boost itself for being this institution which teaches us practical learning and critical thinking, decision making, and they themselves were not able to come up with a proper solution. Like, I am at this crossroad where I have to choose a stream in class 11. So for me, the earlier stages, that was like, living under a tortoise's shell. So I was very nicely protected, and I was made to believe that I can become anything and the world is my oyster and things like that. We see that there is no security that your work will become successful. So it's not always your first option. You have to have something in the back of your mind, telling that we are the future, we are the young voice. So a lot of students, they are not getting the exposure that they deserve. They are not getting the education that they deserve. I think this is one of the issues that the government must work. Feminism, we are quite hyped up about it, but I think LGBTQ rights, that's not quite discussed enough. And we, even in our society, if we use such words, it's considered a curse word. Don't treat choice as a privilege. It is your birthright. If you have to, then fight for it.
Welcome viewers to Middle Class Hub, India's first platform exclusively for the middle class. Viewers, you all must be aware that these are tough times, very difficult times that we are living right now, a time that we have never seen before. So it's like unprecedented. There are no SOPs, standard operating procedures, because as I mentioned earlier, this is entirely new for everyone, for those who are sitting in the corridors of power, those who make policies, those who execute policies. It's a very different situation. And to see the world in these times, it's very distressing. A lot of things has happened which we never imagined in the wildest of our dreams that could be possible. Now, one of them is the recent decision of cancellation of board 10th exams, CBSE board 10th exams. And that got a huge implication for scores of students out there who have been through the 2020 session. Like every other sector, COVID has not spared education. And as we all know, education is badly hit, very badly hit by coronavirus. Now, we presented before you the perspective of a teacher, what teachers think regarding this, the entire education crisis that we are facing right now, the challenges that the corona has bring. And so now we are happy to bring before all of you the perspective, the voice of a young student who is in class 10, session 2020. She was supposed to take the exam this year, but owing to the times that we are living and the huge surge in corona cases, the government has decided to cancel the examination. So we will talk to her and try to get her sense what a young voice, what a young mind thinks about our country, the challenges that we are facing, the challenges of growing up in a middle class family, and just try to see things from the perspective of a young mind, because they are the future. So viewers, I am very happy to welcome Sara. She is a student of DPS Patna, and she is in session 2020 of class 10th. So we'll talk to her and try to understand what she thinks of the ongoing situation. So welcome Sara to Middle Class Hub, India's first platform exclusively for the middle class.
Thank you so much, sir. I'm honored to be with you.
Appreciate you joining us. Now, the first, to start this conversation, that is there at the back of everyone's mind, because you are the one who got directly impacted by this decision. So your first reaction, cancellation of board 10th examination.
I was honestly expecting that I was not expecting this. I was expecting them to come up with some other system or something, but not proper cancellation. So I was definitely in a huge shock, and with it followed sorrow because I spent that entire time, the entire year preparing for this one exam, and they cancel it totally. So yeah, my first reaction was shock and then sorrow.
Then, but was it difficult, if I may ask you that, preparing for this examination? Because you see, this 10th board exam, that's the first major exam that anyone faces in their career, in their life. So, but this year, the 2020, education has suffered very badly because of coronavirus. So the online education, and you missed your regular classes, your regular schools. So do you think that if you've seen from that perspective, the decision seems justified, cancellation?
I still wouldn't be totally satisfied with it because they were given a lot of time. Because earlier, you would remember in the previous session as well, a few exams were left for the previous session of boards, and they ended up canceling that as well. So I think they had this entire year to plan out or come up with at least some kind of alternative to it, and they were not able to do it. And it's not that they did not postpone it already. They were given some extra time, and CBSE kind of boosts itself for being this institution which teaches us practical learning and critical thinking, decision making, and they themselves were not able to come up with a proper solution.
So if in one word I can sum it up, it's like a disappointment, right? This cancellation.
Yes, sir. Because it was not very difficult. Class 10th is not difficult, but it is a building block. You are kind of disowned by your own school at class 10th, and your board exams will get you admission in class 11th. So this exam, the marks, it has a huge value on in what school we are going to be attending. But since we don't have a uniform measure right now, it's a total chaos, and we don't know how and if we'll get admission in good schools or not.
Then I think I can see your concern from where it's coming. I guess now they're saying that it will be based on internal assessments, the promotion to the next class. So that way, definitely it's not fair to students who have put up, with all the challenges that came with online education, and still they were ready to take the exam. So the point is, your views on that. If elections can go on in this corona time, why not exams? So do you have any message for the government?
Yes, sir. It is very nicely you stated the example of elections, and such huge rallies and demonstrations they are carrying out. They don't have a problem with this. Even big competitive exams, they were able to shift to the online platform. I know that every student who is in class CBSE, they won't have access to proper internet connections, but some measure they could have taken. They could have come up with standardized test papers that should be transmitted to all the schools, so that at least even the pre-boards, that would be standardized. The same exam papers we would have written. So even if there would be internal assessment, at least the exam paper would be same. But now we see that for some schools, they gave very easy papers. Some schools, they were preparing them for boards, so they gave difficult question papers. So it's not a fair measure to be calculating the students' merit.
I guess there is one proposal that students who are not satisfied with whatever marks they get on the basis of internal assessments, I guess they can take up the exam at a later date, right? I think this is what the situation is right now.
But how is that justified? You won't be waiting for your board result to get an admission, and for admissions you are rushing. Even right now, we don't even have our board results, but still we are trying to get admissions. So this will just harm our session 2021, because we'll lag behind. We'll still be preparing the same syllabus that we have been preparing for more than 1 year now. So it's not a very wise option that they have given us.
That's very correctly put, because that's what the problem is most of the time. Policies are sometimes, made and announced, they sit in their own ivory towers and then they decide on what needs to be done. But the ground reality is very different. Of course, these are practical problems. Even if you say that the examinations can happen at a later stage for students who are not happy with it, but then who will wait for what will happen to the admission processes? So it's easier said than done. So that's what the times we are living in. That's the problem. So let's talk about last year and a half now. We have been talking about only one thing, coronavirus. How has it affected you? Not in terms of your education, we'll come to that later when it comes to online education, but life in general. What all changes happened for you, for your family during the last year and a half?
So honestly, I am a homebody. I never used to go out to play or anything. So in that sense, I wasn't really affected. But then we couldn't even visit our neighbors. In general, there was so much chaos in our mind because we did not know where we are headed. And so there was a nervousness inside us. And for my mother is an educator and she's a government school teacher. So I think that the students there, they were affected the worst in my experience, because they were not able to, my mother was not able to teach her students, and the parents, they were very scared of what will happen to the students' future. So that was my mother's experience. And as a student, I took up reading. I read a lot of books because I had so much free time. The commuting to school, that 2 hours for me, that was saved. So I think that as a student who has access to proper internet, and we were getting proper online schools, so not a lot of changes, just I missed the classroom interaction and just that much. Otherwise, it was a good time for me. I got to engage with some creative activities, and all in all, it was not that much of chaotic experience for me.
Just one thing. If I ask you, what's one thing that you miss the most about going to schools? Now that since more than a year you have not gone to your school, so what's one thing that you miss the most?
I think the kind of interactions we used to have with our friends, and not just friends, but also the teachers. What we see in online classes, it's kind of a little bit staged. We are not so comfortable with our teachers. And a lot of times, we have this attention deficiency. You are sitting in your bedroom, so sometimes you just want to lay out on your bed, or maybe you start scrolling on your phone. So that is why it's not very interactive. You're not really sitting in the classroom and participating in the discussions, learning the concepts. You're just there. It's a little dull. So I think the interactive classrooms that we used to have, and the enjoyment we used to face with our friends, that is missing.
That's missing. Yes, no doubt it has changed the world like never before. So that's a huge problem, and more than a year. So it's definitely it's almost like blacking out one academic calendar. Okay, things are happening, online education, those who have access, they are getting online lectures and all. But as you rightly mentioned, there are many out there, because in our country still internet penetration is very low. So many students out there, they don't have access to internet. Many of them, the family don't even own a laptop. So that way, of course, it's very difficult. And so these are really tough times, no doubt about that. And we can only hope that things get better from now onwards. And let's talk about your family. I mean, you come from a middle class family. So in general, how is life for a young girl? I mean, for a girl growing up in a typical Indian middle class family, if I want to put it that way?
Yes, sir. So I think, like, I am at this crossroad where I have to choose a stream in class 11. So for me, the earlier stages, that was like, living under a tortoise's shell. So I was very nicely protected, and I was made to believe that I can become anything and the world is my oyster and things like that. But now that I am out there, I feel that there is a lot of tensions and frustrations, and there is a lot of insecurities about job in general, and what to do with life in job in particular, and what to do with life in general. So I think what happened was, for me, I'm grateful to have parents who have given me choice. But in a lot of middle class families and with my friends, as I have seen, they are not given this choice, this choice to choose your own career. It's like a privilege over here, which I think it's a really big shame on our society. It shouldn't be that way. I have seen students who have failed in mathematics, but they have still taken PCM in class 11. So what will happen to their future? So I think that is one of the biggest issues we face, because we don't learn, we don't study to gain knowledge or for our enjoyment. Never that. We have to think about building a career and securing a proper job with job security and a proper, salary.
I think what you said, it will resonate with millions of families out there, because generally the problem with middle class families is that it's a like daily struggle for them, for most of the families out there. So we tend to, over a period of time, the parents, we tend to develop a sense of insecurity, I would say, and we explore that for our children. So the concern coming from parents from the of middle class families is that they want a kind of stability in the career of their children, a kind of financial security, and for that, of course, there are some I would say a kind of path that normally students take after coming out of school. That's engineering and medical. You made a very good point that someone who is not too much, I would say very scoring poorly in mathematics. And if that person is forced to take PCM and to apply for engineering examinations, I think it's a huge waste of talent, because I always believe that everybody is blessed with something or other. Maybe a child might not be good at maths, but he can be exceptional in something else. So it's time, our society, the middle class families also, they give that much freedom to children to pursue their dreams, chase their passion, and then decide on their own. So if I ask you on a personal note, what are your plans now? Now that based on internal assessments, of course, you are now going to 11th standard. So these are crucial times, because the decisions you make at this point, more or less, that defines your career graph. So if you want to share with our viewers, what are your plans? Have you decided something, or still like sitting on the fence, what to do, not to do?
I am a big dreamer, so I have like 1,000 aspirations. Let's see what I go on with. I'll tell you what I really want to do. I want to become an author, but in a long run, I would not be, working for an English degree anytime soon, because again, not so job secured way to go. So I think I'll go with commerce right now. I'm thinking about doing that and working with some as a business consultant or something like that. I want to do that in for the sense of job security, and then I want to continue with literature in some or the other way. I want to be connected to it.
It's so refreshing hearing this. A young child at your age saying they want to become an author. I'm sure many people who follow this field is, they would be so happy to hear that, because normally when you talk to children at the stage at which you are, there are very, I would say frequently answered kind of answers that you get. Engineering, medical, MBAs. I mean, these are the choices. But I'm yet to come across someone before this conversation at such a young age, somebody saying that no, I want to become an author. That's my dream, and So that's your ultimate goal, I believe, right? You want to get into writing, right?
Yes, and for you it might be refreshing, for my parents it was like a shock. Oh my God, how are you going to make a living out of it? So that's what I was earlier. We were talking about insecurity that's there, and in fact, I have friends who are very much interested in writing, in poetry, but we see that there is no security that your work will become successful. So it's not always your first option. You have to have something in the back of your mind, otherwise you might end up in a sad situation.
I think, this is a very important topic that you have touched upon. Uh, the last year and a half, I would say, starting with 2020 and now continuing, it's been a huge learning and unlearning, not just for children, for parents, for adults, for everyone. So now when anybody talks about security, there's nothing like called security in today's time, right? Because the entire dynamics has changed now. So the important thing is to believe in what exactly you want to do. If you are sure about that, then there's no stopping. If you want to be an author, I can tell you, and with all my experience, that if you really believe that this is what you want to do, you should go ahead with that. No matter what, there shouldn't be any kind of peer pressure on any child, any peer pressure or any kind of family pressure also, I would say, because see, their concern coming from a different perspective. But the fact of the matter is, for all of us, not just for children like you, even for us, for our parents, for our earlier generations, it has been a huge learning curve. Many things that we have thought, like for example, we started with this conversation with something that we never imagined would happen while growing up. Not just me, my dad also, it was always told that the 10th board exam, that is the milestone. Although later on realize that it's all crap, it doesn't work like that. But yeah, that's what you have grown up, hearing all those stories about 10th board exam. So nobody would have ever thought that a time would come when this examination would be cancelled. So it's a learning, it's unlearning, and it will keep on going. So I can only say, if you want to become an author, chase your dreams. You will do exceptionally well. I'm sure about that. Any particular, you are a young child, a young voice, you must be seeing things unraveling in front of you. Today, today's generation is very exposed to, internet, social media. A lot of exposure is there, a lot of information is there. Any particular issues you want to talk about which you strongly feel about?
I could go on about a lot of things, but
Please
I'll
go
touch
ahead.
upon.
We have time. Please go ahead. Because we
Okay.
more and more viewers to listen to you, because that's a peek into the mind, a peek into a mind of a young person, what they feel about issues happening around them. So please go ahead and talk about it.
Thank you, sir. So, firstly, I'll talk about the education system, because I am a student, so I'm most affected by it. But more particularly, I want to talk about the government schools. My mother, as I mentioned earlier, she is an educator. So I feel that the government schools need a lot of improvement. There is a lack of resources, and the teachers, even if they are good ones, they are being allotted different kinds of work, and they are not effectively being able to teach the students, which is why, as you have been telling, that we are the future, we are the young voice. So a lot of students, they are not getting the exposure that they deserve, they are not getting the education that they deserve. I think this is one of the issues that the government must work upon. And now another thing that I think is not discussed enough is, well, feminism. We are quite hyped up about it, but I think LGBTQ rights, that's not quite discussed enough. And we, even in our society, if we use such words, it's considered a curse word, which is such a shame, because I, as a student, I have friends who are closeted because they don't know what will happen if they tell their parents about it. And there is very much lack of an awareness, and we don't give the we don't even let them come out. So it's such a shame, and I think that we must together work to make the society more inclusive, give these people, the community, space to express themselves. And yeah, so I think these are a few issues that I have as a student contracted with, and I feel that we need to work about with it.
So good to know about your views on these issues, because no doubt these are very pertinent issues, and it just shows the kind of society we are living. Because if we are not letting a particular set of people express themselves openly, nothing can be more problematic for any society. Because of course there are systematic failures, there are mindset that needs to change, because we must all facilitate, create a society where everybody is free to express themselves, unless and until they are harming others, of course. So depending on someone's sexual orientation and all, of course, we need to, a lot of work needs to be done. And it's good to hear from young minds like you that you think so, seriously on these issues. Because only when there is a thinking on these issues, then only we can put in place corrective measures. So that's very important, and it's so good to know your views on that. And education, of course, as you rightly mentioned, it was even earlier also. It was in a crisis, I would say, pre-COVID era, especially when you talk about government schools. A lot needs to be done, because today the situation is such that if a family can afford, they won't send their children to government schools. So that shouldn't be the case. And unless and until we rectify that, the quality of education, because every year scores of graduates, they come out. You talk about engineering graduates, doctors, MBAs, they come out. But a few percentage of them, I would say, a very low percentage of them are employable. So somewhere it speaks volumes about the fallacies in our education system. And that, of course, all needs to be done. And the policymakers must think on those lines and implement, execute the corrective measures. Now, you see, like every other country, India is also badly affected. Our economy is shattered, and people are having no jobs. And it's a catch-22 situation for any country. I mean, this is like a global crisis, what to do in this situation. So now there is this very pertinent question, the debate that is going on like every other hour, every other day, that imposing lockdown to break the COVID chain. Now the problem is there are many daily wage earners, people who are affluent, people who can sit at homes and still manage to sustain themselves and their families. For them, it's tough for them also, but then it's manageable. But for daily wage earners, now I want your views, because we have been getting a lot of queries and a lot of calls. People are sending us messages saying that, see, the IPL is going on. The cricketers, recently, a leading industrialist, his son tweeted that, the professional cricketers, they are going on with playing cricket. The professional politicians, they are going on addressing rallies and fighting elections. And the professional actors, they are going on about, shooting their documentaries, their movies, their TV serials, and God knows what not. But when it comes to, nobody thinks about and talks about daily wage earners, people who earn every day $200 or $100, and then they manage to, take care of their families. What about them? So is there something you feel that there is a sense of misplaced priorities on what should be open, what should be allowed, what shouldn't be allowed in these times?
Definitely, I think, but we see that this is a disease that has left no sector untouched. Even actors, politicians, they are getting this disease. But I think the problem is misplaced priorities. You mentioned about IPL. Viewers have been allowed and to get into the IPL field, you have to get tested. So now even if you don't have any symptoms, you're going to crowd the hospitals for being tested. Now, if a genuine person wants to get tested, you are kind of blocking their way, and it's not necessary to have viewers. You already make such a big revenue out of it. So I don't see what is the need of such schemes. But when we talk about daily wage workers or shopkeepers, I think that genuinely we don't have a lockdown in place, so the people themselves are not wanting to contact such laborers. Even the maids that used to work, that used to come to our houses, we have stopped calling them. So yes, they are badly hit. The government needs to come up with some kind of scheme to help them, rather either by providing some kind of money allotments, or by giving them a different kind of employment opportunity. But it's easier to say it than do it, because there are so many people who are being badly hit. So I think that government definitely needs to take up these issues, and they need to facilitate the earnings and the in general the employment of such workers in the organized sector.
That's true, because that's one sector, that's badly hit, especially when we talk about daily wage earners, because for them life is very tough. And when you go on with, such misplaced priorities, and crowd don't not be responsible enough to have at least follow COVID appropriate behavior, then things are only expected to go downhill from here even more. And many doctors, we have been talking to a lot of doctors from across India, and also, out of India. So what they are telling me that maybe India's case is of lowering their guard too early, too soon. Maybe we got complacent. Is that also what you think? What are your thoughts on that? Is that what was the second surge, the severe surge in COVID cases?
Yes, I do agree with it, because we saw that we were getting so lenient, and in fact, even when the cases were rising, we were kind of like, okay, it has already happened, we survived, and what harm could it do? But it isn't. That is what caused all the trouble. When for a little while the schools opened, so as a student we went to the classrooms, and we were so excited about meeting our friends that we completely overlooked the protocols for COVID-19. Now we are lucky that we did not actually get infected, but I think just because of this excitement, how we got an illusion of normalcy, everyone got a little bit too excited and we hurried, and which is why now everything is in an alarming situation. It should not be the case. It should not have happened. Even the government should have kept their guards high, and I guess that could have helped us reduce this pandemic situation.
That's true. I think that's a very valid point, because this is what even the medical fraternity, they are, it's a common opinion. You talk to any doctor from any hospital, they will tell you the same thing, because they are overworked. I know many doctors personally, they have not gone to their homes for months together. So such has been the frontline workers, who have put their lives at risk. Many have lost their lives in this battle against COVID, just to protect us safe from this virus. So at least the least that we can do is follow some COVID appropriate behavior, wear masks, sanitize our hands. If not necessary, don't step out of homes. So whatever the guidelines be, one must follow it to the T, because not following it is, I guess the biggest service today anybody can do to the nation is to be at home. I mean, if possible, be at home, unless and until it's very urgent. Don't step out. And thanks to technology today, a lot of things, I'm talking only about people who have access to these technologies. A lot of work can be done. A lot of, I would say, many jobs can be created also. I mean, if through the widely use of technology that is available. So these are things that people need to be responsible, as you rightly said, And governments also, they must, leaders must lead by example. If you are addressing rallies and getting crowd of thousands, during campaigning, then of course things then it has an effect on people's behavior. And like many people, we during this course of conversation we had this that right now we are living in a country, we all agree that it's a difficult situation for the governments also. They have not seen something like this before. It's an evolving situation, so they are reacting to the situation as things are unfolding. But there is a genuine concern that why can't you postpone assembly, like even if the elections, the assembly term is getting over, why can't you postpone it by 6 months, say? Impose president's rule, why not? If you can take a decision on the cancellation of class 10 board exams, then why not that? Or why can't, if there is a technology that is available for conducting online education, why not consider having online examination for class 10 board exams? What's wrong in that? Because after all, these are different times. We need to have a different approach to it. So what are your thoughts on this idea of having online exams for class 10 boarding? Because see, we don't know, maybe a year down the line, next year same time, we might be having the same conversation. So shouldn't there be a system in place where the online examinations can happen?
I think online exams, yes, for an alternative, it's all right. But for the entire year, I have also given online exams. So I have seen that it's not the most efficient way to conduct exams, because at the end, AI is not that smart that it will see whether you're looking at your phone or whether you are typing it. So it's a very, there is a lot of possibility that people cheat. And therefore, I think that if they would have conducted online exams, board online exams, then again, the measure would not be uniform, because some would have given it honestly and some would have made their mothers right, maybe. So I think that this is why we need to come up with something else, something new, not the pen paper exams. Maybe we have so many officials, we have so many teachers, we can crisscross the teachers and record the meetings, and we can have this kind of Zoom meetings perhaps, or some other platform we can use it. And there we can ask, for every subject we can have like a viva for half an hour. Every student must be given half an hour, and they will perhaps explain an entire chapter, perhaps a particular portion of the chapter, something like that, something that ensures the honesty of the student. And I think that it's possible, not this year, but if the situation continues, they should have an alternative with them, so that again the next year they don't end up canceling the exams, or in the near future if anything like this happens, they should have some kind of emergency exams protocol.
Yeah, these are the suggestions, and I can assure you we'll take all these suggestions to those who sit in the corridors of power, and they must think on these lines and be ready, because see, this is not going away anytime soon. So we need to evolve systems and put in place, technologies, methods, by talking to different stakeholders. You are a very prominent stakeholder in this education sector, no doubt, because you are the one who got directly impacted by this decision. You're not taking up your board exams this year, right? So no doubt you have been severely impacted by this coronavirus. I can see that, and by this decision of the government. So all these suggestions, ideas, your views, will be taking it to those who make policies, those who sit in the government, and they must think on those lines and come out with a viable solution. Because no doubt it's a tough time, but then tough times calls for tough measures. We need to think out of the box and make sure that at least life goes on, because education is one thing that can't be left at its own to survive in these difficult times. And that is one sector which has been very badly affected. And it's something like 10 years down the line, you guys would be talking about maybe one complete year or 2 year or 3 year, God knows how many years, being totally blacked out from your school life, from your academic life, and which is very dangerous because
In fact, we as students who have access to online classes, we are quite lucky that we have this, because there are a lot of students who literally could not attend an entire academic year because they did not either know that some programs were going on television for them to watch, or uh, they were not, they did not care enough to attend such sessions. Even if you have online classes, there are a lot of students I have witnessed that they are not attending the classes. So it's a harm that we are doing to ourselves, and sometimes because of the situation, you are completely blacked out for the entire year. And for that, I think that there must be some kind of backup classes for students who haven't been able to attend the entire year, especially if it's like class 9th or 10th, because these are kind of some basic studies that we have to do, even class 1 and 2, because every class is important. If you skip one, it will not make sense in the next class. So that is something that needs to be made sure, that if a student has doubts in the previous class, then maybe in the summer vacation time, during the summer vacations, they can run backup classes and make sure that people who are lagging behind, they can catch up.
So, right now you are at a very crucial stage of your life, and you mentioned in brief about, pursuing something of your choice and then family discussions and all that. So, what would be your message to students out there, some like who at your stage or maybe 2 or 3 years junior to you, when it comes to such, like you navigated through all the family discussions and somehow managed, you're blessed with a great family that you were allowed to take something of your choice. You made a very important decision of your life, right? So what would be your advice to lots of students out there, maybe where there's a lot of resistance from the family to take up a particular stream and not go by their choice? So what would you tell those families, those parents?
I think that don't treat choice as a privilege. It is your birthright. If you have to, then fight for it. And definitely education should be not about making just a career out of it. It should be a process of learning yourself, understanding what you have interests in, and everything like that. It should be a self-reflecting period of your life, and nobody should take that away from you. And whenever the time comes, you make your own decisions. And it's not that you have to completely ignore your parents. They have great inputs. Take that advice, but make sure that you get the final say. And don't be grateful for a choice. It's your right. You should own it. And yeah, that's kind of like my advice. And don't get brainwashed. It's very easy to think that engineering is easy and it's a safe choice, but in the long run, if you will regret getting your job, then it's your loss, right? So you should be you should make sure that you take your decisions based on your inclinations.
I think, I'll end with what you said. It's not just for all the children, students out there, for everyone in this world. You have sent out a great message that don't treat choice as a privilege. You have to fight for it, right? So, Sara, we wish you all the best from Middle Class Hub team. We wish you all the best for your future endeavors. Whichever field you choose, whichever area you want to go, just keep learning, keep growing, keep shining, and stay blessed, stay happy, stay healthy, stay safe. Okay? Thank you
Thank you
so
so
much.
much.
It's a pleasure speaking to you.